Good morning and welcome to the Premier's first press conference of 2026. Today is Friday the 6th of March, celebrated as International Women's Day, in honor of the exceptional women who work in the Premier's office across the government of the Virgin Islands and across the nation. It's when? It's on Sunday. Well, it is 8, but we are going to mark it in government today, and we want to celebrate the exceptional women who work in the Premier's office, those who work across the government of the Virgin Islands, and those across the nation. So in honor of you today, and because the Premier's press conference falls on a Friday, we are wearing purple for all of you women today, Friday. I am Kareem Nelson Hall, Chief Protocol Officer. Now let's welcome the Premier of the Virgin Islands, Honourable Dr. Natalio D. Wheatley, for a statement.
Good morning, everyone. Please have a seat. In recognition of International Women's Day, which falls on Sunday, but of course we wear purple today to commemorate that day, I want to say to all the powerful, wonderful women of the Virgin Islands, happy International Women's Day. And a pleasant good morning to the press corps and the people of the Virgin Islands. I would like to acknowledge my honorable colleagues, Minister responsible for Tourism and Culture and representative for the 4th District, Honourable Luce Hodge Smith, also our Deputy Speaker and representative of the 1st District, Honourable Cal Dawson, our senior public servants, present, and other members of government, and of course GIS, who's facilitating this press conference. I'm pleased to provide an update on my recent overseas engagements to advance the interests of the Virgin Islands as my government continues to bolster our economy, drive sustainable development, and pursue constitutional advancement. On the 13th January 2026, I attended a heads of government of the Organization of Eastern Caribbean States meeting held in St. Lucia and chaired by the Prime Minister of St. Vincent and the Grenadines, Honourable Dr. Godwin Friday. He discussed critical issues affecting the region, among other things. I shared with my colleagues, heads, the disruption and cancellation of flights to and from the Virgin Islands caused by the military operations that took place in relation to Venezuela. Our deliberations emphasized the importance of OECS governments working together to help to ensure the stability of our tourism economies as external shocks continue to impact the region. From the 1st to the 5th of February 2026, I attended the World Government Summit in Dubai in the United Arab Emirates, held under the theme Shaping Future Governments. The summit brought together governments, international organizations, thought leaders, and private sector leaders from around the world to foster international cooperation and to identify innovative solutions for future challenges. One of the objectives of my participation was to raise the profile of the Virgin Islands as an international finance center and tourism destination. Toward this end, I spoke on a panel alongside my colleague, Grenada's Prime Minister, Honourable Deacon Mitchell, where we discussed our economies and the sustainable development of our societies as small island developing states. In terms of financial services, the summit provided a high-level platform to promote the Virgin Islands and support our expansion into high-growth markets in India, Southeast Asia, and the Middle East. In this regard, I was also pleased to attend the official opening ceremony of HANI's Dubai office and to lend my support to the financial services industry. While in Dubai, I also participated in the 10th Association of Caribbean States International Cooperation Conference that took place in the margins of the World Government Summit. I was able to give valuable input on the regional projects currently being developed by ACS that the Virgin Islands will benefit from, involving tourism, climate change, shipping, among other things. Before I leave this topic, I would like to publicly express my gratitude to the government of the United Arab Emirates for their generous sponsorship of my attendance and that of my special envoy, Mr. Benito Wheatley, who accompanied me. Following my departure from Dubai, I traveled to the Turks and Caicos Islands from the 6th to the 10th of February 2026, where I had very productive discussions with Premier Honourable Charles Washington Missick and his administration on preparations for our constitutional negotiations with the United Kingdom. I, along with the chair of the Constitutional Review Commission, Lisa Penn-Lettsam, and Principal Crown Counsel in the AG's chambers, Maya Barry, had detailed discussions on the constitutional process with Premier Missick, who was supported by his permanent secretary, as well as Attorney General. The Turks and Caicos Islands is the most recent overseas territories to successfully negotiate amendments to their constitution. The insights provided were extremely helpful in shaping expectations as it pertains to timelines, the structure of the negotiations, the availability of resources, and potential outcomes. Premier Missick's willingness to share TCI's experience was truly commendable and reflective of the collegiality that exists among the overseas territories. I was also joined in TCI by Permanent Secretary Joseph Smith Abbott. We had exceptionally good meetings on tourism, which looked at the legislative, regulatory, and institutional arrangements governing tourism in the Turks and Caicos Islands, to identify lessons that may inform the continued development of the tourism sector in the Virgin Islands. Meetings were held with the Honourable Zarevo Jolly, Minister of Tourism, his Permanent Secretary, Mr. Wesley Clervay, and Ms. Sally Cox, Chief Executive Officer of the Turks and Caicos Islands Hotel and Tourism Association. These engagements provided a valuable opportunity for frank and constructive dialogue on tourism governance, service standards, and regulatory oversight in a rapidly growing tourism destination. The insights gained from this visit will in part inform the government's ongoing work to modernize the tourism governance framework of the Virgin Islands, including the development of strengthened regulatory arrangements, service quality standards, and institutional structures to support the sustainable growth of our tourism industry in an increasingly competitive global tourism marketplace. We also had meetings on investment and national health insurance that will help to inform our approach to these matters here in the Virgin Islands. I'm grateful to Premier Missick, Minister Jolly, and their teams for accommodating my delegation and myself. From the 24th to the 28th of February 2026, I attended the 50th regular meeting of CARICOM Heads of Government in Basseterre St. Kitts, themed Beyond Words, Action Today for a Thriving CARICOM. The meeting addressed regional and global challenges, especially concerning Cuba and Haiti stability and security. Special guests included U.S. Secretary of State, Honourable Marco Rubio. The heads reaffirmed commitment to CARICOM and called for further strengthening of its institutions. The heads also approved the Virgin Islands and Turks and Caicos Islands. The heads also approved the Virgin Islands and Bermuda as candidates for full CARICOM membership and agreed to expediting negotiations. We joined Bermuda as associate members seeking full membership. Notably, the Virgin Islands' first application for full membership was made in 1997. Full membership would strengthen our participation and cooperation as the region evolves. My team is working with the CARICOM Secretariat on the terms for an accession agreement. We are studying Montserrat and the Bahamas as models, as both are full members which do not participate in the CARICOM single market economy. We aim to find a mutually acceptable model for membership. My delegation attended meetings of the CARICOM Community Council of Ministers and CARICOM Meeting of Ambassadors, joined by my special envoy, Mr. Benito Wheatley, Ms. Donnell Davis, and Mr. Kamal Lettsam. The meeting was ably chaired by the Prime Minister of the Federation of St. Kitts and Nevis, Honourable Dr. Terence Drew, who I commend for his tremendous regional leadership. Finally, I would like to just touch on two current issues. The first is the impact of the ongoing war in the Middle East. Let me say first that the Virgin Islands is a peaceful and stable territory. We do not take sides in distant conflicts. As a government, our responsibility is to safeguard the welfare of our people. We are closely monitoring the situation in the Middle East and its effects on global fuel prices, shipping costs, and the cost of essential goods. My government has convened the technical working groups and is engaging with fuel importers, the BVI Electricity Corporation, and the business community to continually assess the immediate and foreseeable risks and identify practical measures to cushion the impact on households and businesses. Simultaneously, we are also accelerating our investment in renewable energy to reduce our long-term dependence on imported fuel. We'll provide regular updates as the situation develops, and we urge our people to remain calm and vigilant. The second matter is in relation to the implementation of the revised Commercial Recreational Vessel License Framework and its impact on the relationship between the Virgin Islands and the United States Virgin Islands. As I stated in the House of Assembly on the 16th January 2026, the government has both the right and responsibility to steward the territory's natural resources in a way that secures the Virgin Islands' long-term economic future. Our maritime space is a vital national asset and a cornerstone of our blue economy, and it must be managed responsibly, sustainably, and in the best interest of the people of the Virgin Islands. The CRVL amendments form part of a broader modernization of the territory's maritime regulatory framework. The previous fee structure had remained unchanged for over 3 decades. The updated system strengthens regulatory clarity, improves compliance, modernizes licensing administration, and ensures that commercial operators who benefit from the use of the Virgin Islands waters contribute fairly to the infrastructure, environmental protection, and public services that sustain the marine tourism industry. The government recognizes the concerns expressed by stakeholders in the United States Virgin Islands and values the deep historical, cultural, and familial ties that connect our two territories. The Virgin Islands remains committed to dialogue with the government of the United States Virgin Islands and believes discussions should be guided by objective evidence and mutual respect. The government also believes that we should have a continued direct engagement between our two neighboring territories based on our shared history and close relationship. This puts us in the best position to address any differences constructively without the need for escalation beyond our region. At the same time, the waters and marine resources within the territorial jurisdiction of the Virgin Islands fall under the legislative authority of this government, and we will continue to exercise that responsibility in the best interests of the territory. The government of the Virgin Islands remains open, welcoming, and committed to maintaining one of the world's premier sailing destinations while ensuring that the stewardship of our waters is responsible, sustainable, and fair. Thank you for your kind attention. I will now take questions from the press in relation to the matters I have presented.
Press members, we can begin. You're going to use the microphone to my left, which is your right. We're going to start with questions pertaining to the matters before. I know there might be other questions, and we can entertain them at the end of those questions. We don't have a limit on questions, but be mindful of your time and the Premier's as well. Let's begin. Don't all jump at once. The microphone is all yours. But there are no... Somebody pivot her camera for her as well, please.
It's on?
Go right ahead.
It's on?
It is.
Good morning, Kathy Richards, JTV News. Premier, you spoke a little bit about your concerns and monitoring of the existing wars, especially the new one that has potential for economic impact. My question is, what threats are they likely to have on our persons from the Virgin Islands residing in those areas, and what is this government doing in preparation should there be need to have them brought home?
Well, let me take this opportunity to express to any persons who have been caught up in that conflict, my sympathies, my concern for all persons, whether the persons from the United Arab Emirates, from all of the other governments in the region, Saudi Arabia, Bahrain, any of the other countries in the Middle East, and all of the people from around the world who walk in those places. I was recently in Dubai, and of course it's a very cosmopolitan city with persons from around the world. I'm not aware of any Virgin Islands nationals there, but of course I was recently at the opening of Hani's office in Dubai, of course. I'll take this opportunity to express to any persons who believe that they need the assistance of the British Virgin Islands government or the United Kingdom government by extension to certainly reach out to us so that we can understand the nature of the challenge and see how we can assist as possible.
Okay, and following on that as well, there has been this constant discussion about and concern about food security for us here in the Virgin Islands, and daily we are seeing the importance of addressing that. What of significance, any major significance, have we done of recent to impact food security in the Virgin Islands?
Well, we continue along our program. I have the Deputy Speaker here who's been very kindly assisting me with the portfolio, as well as Honourable Stacey Mather. We're going to put our agricultural exhibition on in April, and we of course continue plans to build our reservoir in Paraquita Bay. We have our agricultural complex that also is happening in Paraquita Bay. We have grants program that we just launched and quite a number of persons signed up for. But let me just say, Kathy, there's no overnight solution to establish food security. The only country that can fully feed itself is the country that you have come from, right? That's a survey of countries all over the world. The only country, Guyana, can fully sustain itself, if there are any food shortages. So we will continue to have to import food. But this is why we are forming relationships with other countries in the region, such as the Dominican Republic, which is a big food producer. In a short few weeks, we're going to sign a memorandum of understanding with the Dominican Republic government, which includes things like assisting us in the event of any kind of external shock, whether it be a natural disaster or otherwise. And of course, we continue to form relationships with our OECS colleagues. Some of them, produce a reasonable amount of food in places like Dominica, St. Vincent, Grenada, etc. So we continue along our program, but there's no overnight fix. What these incidents, or what these wars and conflicts and other external shocks remind us of is the urgency of being able to push forward our own ability to produce our own food and also to trade among our neighbors. And, we are going to redouble our efforts, but of course, the public as well has a role to play in supporting those persons who are committed themselves to produce food here in the Virgin Islands, and also to support and trade among the various Caribbean countries. We also can do our part. We can do our backyard gardening, etc. And we can make decisions when we go to the supermarket that reflect that we want fresh, healthy, locally grown produce. But Kathy, the work continues, and as we are approaching, the time when we celebrate our fishers and our farmers, you're going to hear a lot more about what we're doing in the area of food security.
Okay, you mentioned Guyana and forming the partnership with Dominica. I know that there was a big delegation that went to Guyana on an explorative mission. Has there been any fruit to that? Having mentioned that, you know, there is where a lot of food is and can help us here in the Virgin Islands.
Well, the Minister for Financial Services, Honourable Lorna Smith, led that delegation to Guyana. Certainly, I will have her follow up with the press and the public about following up with that MOU, and also officials from that particular ministry have been focusing on that.
Okay, and my final question before I take my seat. There has been some discussions, some understanding, some not, and I wish if you can shed some clarification on the point that you would have raised while you were at the CARICOM heads meeting, is that of you not being in support of the free movement of people. You want to explain your position?
Thank you so much. Well, you know, our government not being in support of free movement is not a new position. You know, persons would remember Ralph O'Neill addressed it. In fact, the exact words he used is, any discussion on freedom of movement is dead on arrival, is what the late, great Ralph O'Neill expressed. But let me say first of all, Kathy, that some persons interpret that as a lack of support or disrespect to our Caribbean brothers and sisters. No, it is not. No, it is not. We are fully committed to the regional integration project. We are fully committed and respectful of our brothers and sisters from various Caribbean islands. I would challenge any country in the Caribbean to show me where there are more Virgin Islanders in their country than members or nationals from their country in the Virgin Islands. I would challenge any country on that. You go up and down the line, we will have more Caribbean nationals from the various countries in the Virgin Islands than we have Virgin Islanders in those countries. We are deeply committed to regional integration. Persons who have come from other countries have enriched the Virgin Islands through their skills, through their contributions to our community, their community service, and otherwise. And over 70% of our workforce is out from outside of the Virgin Islands. So persons should not interpret the fact that we do not want freedom of movement, meaning persons being able to move in an uncontrolled way, as a lack of support for CARICOM, for OECS, or for regional integration. But because we are a small territory with finite resources, we have to be able to manage the flow of persons into the Virgin Islands. Because if we do not do that, what we have in the Virgin Islands will not just be spoiled for Virgin Islanders, it will be spoiled for everybody who comes here to live and work. I think it's unfortunate that some persons have misinterpreted that, but I'm grateful for the opportunity to clarify the point. And I should say as well, Kathy, persons may not be aware, but there are several CARICOM countries who have not signed on to freedom of movement. Bahamas has not. They are a full member of CARICOM. Of course, you know, Montserrat is a full member of CARICOM and is an overseas territory of the United Kingdom. They would not have freedom of movement. And to my knowledge, there are only 4 CARICOM countries right now who signed on to freedom of movement. The Prime Minister of Trinidad and Tobago went to CARICOM and said she's not signing up at this particular time. She made that statement. So I'm not sure why it's such a big news that the Virgin Islands is not signed on to, or is not be signing on to freedom of movement. But that's the media for you, who I love, by the way.
Thank you, Premier.
Thank you, JTV. All right. Go right ahead to it for, and we know you'll come right after Vino.
Good morning, Jacques Wooding Donovan, to it for media. I just wanted to follow up on Kathy's last question because we would have seen a quote circulating regarding the intention to also join the OECS but not participate in freedom of movement.
Yes.
All the protocol members of the OECS, including Montserrat, do participate in freedom of movement as established by the Treaty of Bastia. So what is the intended approach with joining the OECS as a full member? And would that have been part of discussions during your attendance at the heads of government meeting?
Well, we have engaged with OECS about pursuing full membership. They're fully aware of our position in terms of not having freedom of movement. They're very understanding of that particular position. And I don't think that will impede our full membership in the OECS as well. I'll have to go back and check what you said, because I wasn't aware of the fact that Montserrat had freedom of movement, because I know for a fact that this is a issue of the United Kingdom government, which they don't favor freedom of movement to any overseas territories. Predictably, because once you become settled in an overseas territory, you will then have some rights to be naturalized as United Kingdom citizens. The ability to have freedom of movement is not just within our decision-making process or our authority to give. That also has to do with the United Kingdom government, who has given us an entrustment. And in the entrustment letter specifically mentions freedom of movement not being supported by the United Kingdom government. But OECS, I have to commend them. They have embraced the Virgin Islands and Anguilla and Montserrat and have given us the full respect, almost treating us the same as the independent countries. In many instances, we are treated the same. Of course, understandably, there's certain things that we won't be able to participate in. But we are going to pursue full membership in OECS vigorously.
Okay, just one more question regarding regional bodies. We would have seen mixed responses from the regional community on the intention for full membership in CARICOM, specifically in the populations of countries who participate in free movement. Now, unfortunately, we saw in those comments that a lot of members of, I guess, our Caribbean community were not aware of the contributions of the Virgin Islands towards the Caribbean's development. So I just wanted to give you an opportunity to just speak on those contributions and the anticipated enrichment of that relationship when the Virgin Islands becomes a full member.
Well, I mean, we've been part of these regional organizations, I believe, since the 1970s, and we've always been fully supportive, and we've been participatory in the various, even the various protocols of CARICOM and the OECS. I think perhaps we participate in 9 out of the 11 protocols for CARICOM. And, we've been a part of SEDIMA, for instance. We just had a meeting of SEDIMA, a training that took place, I think, over the last week. And there are various CARICOM institutions that we've participated in. Impacts, for instance. Impacts assisted us greatly as it pertains to our border management system, our online ED cards, etc. And they've assisted us quite a bit as it pertains to law enforcement and some of the transnational crime that we're fighting against. And, we can give just a number of examples. Across agriculture, trade, all types of different aspects that we've signed on to, either from CARICOM or the OECS. And we've been participating for, as I said, for the last 5 decades or so. And of course, I've already spoken about the fact that we have nationals of the countries living here, and we've been able to, over the years, form good relationship with the governments of the nationals who reside here. I don't have an exhaustive list right now, But certainly, I think as we approach full membership of OECS and CARICOM, we'll have to do a better job of educating the public about not only our interaction with other CARICOM and OECS countries in the region, but our membership in these organizations over years. And as my statement said, we first sought full membership in CARICOM all the way back in 1997. It's not a new discussion for us.
Okay.
Any water? Good morning, Honourable Premier. Good morning. Virgin Islands News Online, Ruben Stobie. Matt Coleman, the administrator of the U.S. Small Business Administration's Atlantic region, told reporters in the USVI recently that the Trump administration had sent a formal diplomatic complaint to the VI officials about the Commercial Recreational Vessel Licensing Act. Has your government received that official complaint, and have you responded?
Thank you for that question. Governor of the Virgin Islands, Mr. Daniel Cruz, did bring to my attention that through I believe it would have been the U.S. Embassy in the United Kingdom government, that they've received formal correspondence on the matter between the United States Virgin Islands and the British Virgin Islands. The question was whether we would be engaging with the United States Virgin Islands further on the matter, because the United Kingdom government recognizes that this is an area that's been devolved to the government of the Virgin Islands, and I believe would prefer for it to be handled on the level of the Virgin Islands and the U.S. Virgin Islands. But they remain, I guess, aware of the situation, and the governor and I remain in dialogue about the situation in the United States Virgin Islands and the Virgin Islands. But important to note, we will be engaging. We've had some informal engagements with the government over there, and we are looking to have a more formal engagement in the near future. In fact, I'll be writing to Governor Bryan shortly.
Okay, because he did say he was hoping to have a meeting for this month. Will there be any meeting this month?
I think we've been trying to get a time for a meeting, a proper date for a meeting that's acceptable to both of us.
The main issue with the USVI seems to be that the USVI-based yachts are paying $24,000 a season to enter VI waters, while VI-based charter yachts are paying $4,000. You said the fee structure wasn't addressed for like 3 decades. But do you think the $24,000 fee is negotiable?
Well, we've been negotiating over a number of years, I would say, starting in 2022. Of course, I have the Deputy Financial Secretary here. He has the exact dates and times when we first started speaking about this issue. But this is not a new issue. We've been speaking over it for a number of years. Let me remind persons that this legislation was enacted in 1992. And the late, great Lavity Stout, whom we will commemorate and celebrate on Monday, he's the one that passed that piece of legislation. And since he did that legislation, no changes were ever made to that piece of legislation. And so the changes we have made are in recognition of the fact that inflation over time, of course, the increased expense of being able to administer the services to the marine community, the fact that our waters, those are our natural resources, and this is the way that we will have to build our schools and build our roads and finance our healthcare institutions. So we believe what we have put forward after a series of negotiations over years is fair. And actually the words of Governor Bryan, after we came to our final settlement, acknowledged our right to be able to regulate our own waters and price entry into our own waters or for the licenses that we issue. I would remind you as well, 24,000 is just the unlimited entry into the Virgin Islands. There are options that for licenses for foreign-based commercial recreational vessel licenses from about $8,500. I think it's $7,500, somewhere around there. And then each entry after that, you can pay a sum of money. I think the $8,500 for the day trippers. We originally had that at $12,500. We gave that a discount. But I also want to say, Brother Stobie, that we have a different fee structure from the United States Virgin Islands. Okay, they have income taxes. They have corporate taxes. They have something called gross receipts. So they're going to make something off of every business registered in the Virgin Islands, all of their activity. We have a different fee structure. We don't have those corporate taxes. We don't have income taxes. So we're going to have to make something from the activity in that sphere from the fees that we collect. So it might seem like it's a lot of money, but when you have, in some instances, one charter being $100,000, for instance, and that vessel is registered in the United States Virgin Islands, they're going to be getting a portion of the gross receipts of that particular commercial transaction. And they have a economic structure that is able to finance their government. Plus, I would say, they receive millions of dollars, it might even be more than millions, from the federal government of the United States every year to fund their budget. We don't receive anything from the United Kingdom government, and we have not received anything from the United Kingdom government since the late 1970s. So we need to put an economic structure in place that's going to support our society. And my first obligation and responsibility is to the people of the Virgin Islands, though we value the friendship and the partnership we've had with the United States Virgin Islands over many years.
Were you surprised that the governor then went to Washington to get the federal government involved?
Yeah, I'll be honest with you, and of course, in politics sometimes you express things in a particular way, but I have to be very honest with you. I was displeased. I was displeased with the governor escalating this to the federal government because we are friends. We celebrate that friendship every year, and in my view, we should continue to dialogue. If there are any challenges, we get together and we try to work those challenges out.
Thank you so much.
Yeah.
Other media questions? Go right ahead to the microphone. No need. Go right ahead.
Hello, Premier. Sean Connolly, business editor of the BVI Beacon. We've mentioned CARICOM earlier. Has the UK approved your move to be a full member of CARICOM? And what are the next steps, please?
Yes, so the process would be that we would have had to seek an entrustment from the Secretary of State of the United Kingdom. That has been granted. A letter of entrustment was issued to myself through the governor, and that gave us approval to commence negotiations for full membership. But of course, with any negotiation with external body, the United Kingdom government will have to approve the final terms and conditions. So we have applied for full membership. We are commencing negotiations. We'll go through that process. When we come to a particular point, we'll have to share that information with the United Kingdom government through the governor and get approval based on the terms and conditions outlined in the letter of entrustment.
We're coming up to a year now since the liquidation of the Bank of Asia. $5 million of public funds was deposited.
The questions about what he presented before we go to that question? Any more questions about the 5 topics presented first?
Sorry,
Do
pardon?
you have any more questions about the 5 topics in the presentation first before we go to
Oh,
the
no, that's
outside
fine.
questions?
$5 million was deposited of public money into the Bank of Asia before it's liquidated. Before, when it was quite sure that it was going to go, do you now know who actually authorized the deposit of that money?
So, Premier, we're going to hold the answer for that question until we exhaust all the questions on your presentation. And if we have more time, then we'll return to that question. Are there any other questions about the presentation, Beacon?
Do you want to ask the question?
We'll return if we have the time to do so. Can we?
Well, the moderator would like for you to ask questions in relation to this particular press
I
conference.
want to be fair to the other press members.
And
sure.
then after we can entertain other questions.
Please.
It's free press, so you should be able to answer.
Right, so we
questions,
appreciate the
one would
question.
imagine.
If there's
Do you want to answer? Do you know who
BVI Beacon, the Premier, will consider answering the question, but we want to give all the other press members the chance to do their questions as well that are on topic. Please, Beacon.
I mean, I can answer the question after the other questions are exhausted. I will answer the question.
Well, I'm asking the question now. So.
Beacon, after he is exhausted, the questions will return to you. If there are any other members of the press that have a question, can you please move to the microphone? ZBVI, you haven't asked. Guava Berry, we haven't had your questions yet about the topics at hand. Huh? We just want to make sure we focus on these questions and then we can go outside. We're not restricting you. We just want to be focused and then we can veer out. Guava Berry Media, acknowledge.
Morning, Guava Berry Media. Cindy,
Thank you.
Roseanne. Did you discuss becoming a full member of CARICOM with Virgin Islanders? If so, what was the consensus? And what is the reason and benefits for wanting to become a full member of CARICOM? And have you thought about any effects of any fallout between CARICOM and the Trump administration? Sorry, my questions are usually loaded.
Okay, thank you. Let me address the last question first about the benefits of full membership, and then I think you went on to speak about fallout between CARICOM and the Trump administration. Okay, it's important to state that as associate members, we do have quite a bit of benefits in CARICOM. We can participate in most of what CARICOM provides, and we're grateful for the experience we've had in CARICOM thus far. Part of the limitations that we experience right now with CARICOM is we cannot access some of the engagements they have with third countries. For instance, they would have a summit with Mexico. They would have a summit with Brazil. They would have a summit with Saudi Arabia. They would have a summit with the African Union. And we have not been able to participate in those as associate members. So one of the reasons why we want to pursue full membership is to be able to benefit from engagements with third countries such as those. I can't think of any drawbacks of becoming a full member because, as I said before, one of the strongest concerns that the people of Virgin Islands would have expressed over years has to do with the freedom of movement and not being able to control our borders. So that's the rationale for pursuing full membership in CARICOM. As it pertains to fallout with the Trump administration, that's why I thought that the CARICOM meeting in St. Kitts and Nevis was extremely important. I thought that the Secretary of State of the United States government showed great respect to CARICOM because he left from the State of the Union address that Donald Trump gave, and immediately following the address flew directly to St. Kitts after that, late into the night. And I thought that showed a great deal of respect that they have for CARICOM. And in the address that the U.S. Secretary of State made to CARICOM, he affirmed the United States government's desire to have a strong partnership with CARICOM. Now, you also would have heard in the opening ceremony of that CARICOM meeting in St. Kitts that various countries expressed that CARICOM does not have a unified foreign policy. And even within CARICOM, you'll have variance in terms of the policy towards the United States or any particular action of the United States. But what I thought was extremely important is that as colleagues, CARICOM members came together, they engaged responsibly and maturely and came to a consensus position as it pertains to engagement with the United States in the region and sought to have a constructive relationship, and which I think is important to do with any United States administration, because the United States is a major power in the world, and certainly as we are what has been described in America's backyard, we're very close neighbors to the United States, it's important for us to maintain good relations.
Let me just have a follow-up on that. And I don't know if you're aware. Well, there was some slight friction at CARICOM, at the CARICOM meeting in St. Kitts. However,
I am aware.
There was, no, I know you're aware of that part. The other part, the U.S. issued a warning to Jamaica based on something they said. And I don't know if you're aware, there's a big article on Times Caribbean in reference to the Trinidad's president and Guyana's president being invited to breakfast with Trump. Where does that leave the rest of CARICOM? Doesn't that show some kind of division? And we being on this side, those are the fallouts that I'm trying to figure out for us over here in the Virgin Islands.
Well, first of all, let me say in terms of the United States government's criticism of Jamaica, I didn't interpret it that way. I believe it might have been one of the representatives, but not officially the United States government, anybody responsible from the State Department.
No, I think Trump said something, but I'll pull it up, but go ahead.
Yeah, you'd have to share that with me. But of course, I know that Jamaica and the United States have had very strong relationship over the years, and that seems to continue. And from all indications and from all that I can see, the United States and Jamaica continue to have a strong relationship. As it pertains to who Donald Trump has meetings with, I wouldn't take that as an indication of anything in regards to CARICOM generally. CARICOM members have meetings with heads of government all over the world all the time. So I wouldn't, take that to mean that, it's a slight against anyone else. Guyana and Trinidad are oil-producing countries, and Secretary of State Marco Rubio said that that's one of the interests of the United States in the region. It has to do with energy.
All right. So as the premier of the country, Would you agree that you have failed agriculture, especially given your advocacy prior to being elected and having held the portfolio for about 7 years now? And then what measures are in place to ensure oil remains a reasonable price for consumers, and any plans to stockpile food and oil?
So, Governor,
Given
your relations to the 5 subjects, or
of
the
course, this is
question?
about the war that's going on with Iran and oil and food sovereignty.
Yeah,
and
I'll answer.
Yes.
No, I wouldn't agree that I've failed. And I believe that, by the time we get to the end of this administration, that we will have some very key and significant areas of progress made under agriculture and fisheries. As it pertains to the price of oil, we have no control over the price of oil. Oil is traded internationally. They have a way and means of determining the oil prices, whether through OPEC or otherwise, etc. And the situation in Iran has already resulted in increased fuel prices, and it is predicted that those prices will continue to rise. Now, as we do not have control over the price of oil, we have to focus on what we can control. In the past, government has at various times subsidized the price of that consumers pay to the BVI Electricity Corporation. As we monitor, that will be something that we'll have to look at closely with the financial secretary based on the resources which are available, what measures we can take to ease the blow on consumers. But that's something that we're paying attention to very closely. The other thing which is within our control, and this is something that homeowners can do for themselves, is we have to diversify our energy supply, and that means solar energy. We have a program through the BVI Electricity Corporation called STEP, Solar Technology Energy Program, where persons can apply for solar panels on their roofs. We did the solar farm in Anigada. We want to do additional solar farms so that we can mitigate ourselves against the volatility of oil prices, especially due to all of the conflicts in the world. So that's something that persons can do for themselves, get some solar panels on their roof. We do have a program. We have the Climate Change Trust Fund, who I believe considering applications from BVI EC for putting some money into that program so that we can expand it. But again, there are no shortcuts. There are no shortcuts to building energy resilience and diversifying our energy supply. As it pertains to stockpiling food, I have had some discussions with supermarkets, and we continue those discussions in terms of making additional resources necessary available if necessary. But we have to look at the situation as of right now. I'm not being advised that we'll have any shortages of food, but this is also why we have to diversify our source markets for food as well. And this is the importance of us establishing memorandum of understanding with places like Dominican Republic and our OECS neighbors. If there becomes a challenge with the availability of food. My understanding right now is that food remains available, but it may be at a higher price.
So I just want to follow up really quickly, and I guess this is where kind of click between journalist and Cindy. But anyway, two things. St. Thomas, the government warned the gas companies and so forth to not raise prices kind of on the old gas, because when wars and stuff start, somehow the gas price goes up before, like the next day before. So are you monitoring any of that, and are you monitoring the rise in price for gas as it comes in so that there's no price gouging? And two, we continue to talk about these memorandums of understanding with others, but when there is no food, we side with the US, right, with COVID and everything. Countries are going to hold on to what they have for their people, so that would leave us out. So if there's any further thought that you can say where we can have more food security, because I know based on the hurricane, we came to find out that the supermarkets, Rotom Wholesale in particular, they have up to 3 months. They stock up to 3 months of food, certain foods that they could. So
and I thank you.
I guess kind of what I'm asking is how long would it take the government to put up a warehouse and start stocking some food? I can't imagine it will take too long if we committed to doing that.
Okay. Let me address the price gouging point first. Let me say that we have in the Ministry of Financial Services, Economic Development and Digital Transformation put together a technical group. And the technical group has already produced a report on the Iran conflict, the impact already and potential impacts. So I'm studying that report right now, but that report does have recommendations for me that I'm studying very carefully. But there's a technical working group which is monitoring not just prices of gas, but monitoring prices across the Virgin Islands. Okay, so that's one. And of course, we have a Consumer Protection Act which is going to be coming to the House soon, and I believe that Consumer Protection Act will have a lot stronger language in it about price gouging, especially in a disaster. We passed a Consumer Protection Act. That Consumer Protection Act was tied to a trade commission, which we're no longer pursuing. So that Consumer Protection Act has to return powers to the minister and the ministry. And but it has strong language in there as it pertains to businesses who price gouge during a disaster. So we would need a legislative framework to ensure that we can take action against things like that. Okay, as it pertains to your question about building a warehouse and stockpiling food, I'm going to repeat some of what I said before. There's only one country in the world who has found that they can feed themselves completely without relying on any other nation, and that is Guyana, with its vast land and resources. So I'm saying to you, while we can seek to increase food production locally, the concept that we'll be able to completely feed ourselves outside of trade with our neighbors is nothing more than a dream. But what we need to do is reduce imports and increase local production. And that's what we are seeking to do right now. As it pertains to just stockpiling food, it's something that last night at the meeting of the technical group that we started discussing. And we have to discuss the logistical aspects of that. How exactly would such a system work? That's something that we need to contemplate. For instance, we start stockpiling food, the food stays there for a certain amount of time, it spoils while people continue to go to the supermarkets. So we need to come up with a kind of system that makes sense, it works, and it has to be well thought out. Just saying that you're going to build a warehouse and start putting food in there sounds good, but we have to work out the details and to ensure we have something that actually makes sense. Now, having said that, a part of the agricultural complex in Paraquita Bay will involve warehouse facilities for buying food from local farmers and consolidating from several different farms and engaging directly with hotels, supermarkets, and restaurants. So we do have plans for that, and those plans will come to fruition shortly. We're starting with a abattoir, at the abattoir at Paraquita Bay, but after that we'll be moving swiftly towards a agricultural complex that will be able to store food in the way that you've described.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Go right ahead.
Okay.
Premier, good morning. Premier, why you seem to remain cool in addressing the issue between the BVI and the USVI? It seems as though it's a different sort of situation with the US Virgin Islands, because you see the area between the USVI and the BVI as a friendly relationship that existed for a long time. And the governor and the USVI said there's need that to get together to regulate the waters easily. But yet, after saying those words, he decides to go further, to go to the feds, to go to the US government, to still jump on you to make things done faster and in the interest of the USVI. You said it was uncalled for, what he did. You think the threats made by the USVI's governor to force you in a situation to please him troubles you, to make you change your direction to please him, or you will stay on track?
Premier, this is Zen Lewis from ZBVI.
Yes.
Zan Lewis, ZBVI. Sorry, sir.
We missed you, Zan. Just to say, Zan, first of all, you know, the relationship between the Virgin Islands and the United States Virgin Islands is bigger than myself, it's bigger than Governor Bryan. And the friendship that we seek to engender, you know, spans many decades. You know, we are one people. So we will remain committed to that friendship as two territories that we describe as the Greater Virgin Islands. But that doesn't mean, of course, that we won't have disagreements over time. The important thing is to be able to handle those disagreements maturely, handle them with principle, handle them, you know, with a view to ensuring that that friendship remains. So as I said before, my main responsibility and my main goal is to ensure that we take actions in the best interest of the people of the Virgin Islands. But where we have a shared interest, where we have common goals, common areas of working together, we will continue to work together. And where we have disagreements or conflicts, we will have mechanisms to be able to deal with that, including the Inter-Virgin Islands Council.
So his threats to the U.S. mean nothing to you, that you will continue in the same direction? You're not afraid of his threats?
Well, I already stated that I was not pleased that this escalated beyond our two governments to the you know, the administering powers of the United States government and the United Kingdom government. Based on recent statements, I see that the governor is willing to engage on our level. So that's what we're going to do. We're going to engage and continue dialogue, and hopefully we will come to a mutual understanding.
I understand your reasoning, sir, as regards the freedom of movement to the BVI. I understand what you're saying.
Yes.
But at the same time, you want to become full membership of CARICOM.
Yes.
And also, free movement of people is an agenda item for CARICOM.
Yes.
That is something that other countries need to follow, because it is part of CARICOM.
Yeah, it's one of the protocols of CARICOM.
No, you would want to. You want to break that. You don't want to be a part of that. So now, if you are given a choice, sir, as you move to be a full member of CARICOM, if you have been called upon to prioritize, become a full movement of CARICOM, or be a full member to benefit, receive all the benefits of CARICOM, where would you go?
Okay, first of all, just from a legal standpoint, Persons become full members of CARICOM on terms and conditions decided by the heads of government, of the conference. Okay, and that is the reason why, for instance, Bahamas, who also does not participate in freedom of movement, can be a full member. And of course, we already described the fact that Montserrat is a full member but doesn't sign on to all of the protocols of CARICOM. So what you're saying is entirely possible. I believe, and this is just my view, and I think it's a wider view that we have to have within the region, that while we are committed to particular principles, we also have to be committed to practicality. Practicality. And I believe that many CARICOM countries are basically saying that freedom of movement is not just the BVI. Freedom of movement is not something that they can take on at this particular time. Some persons, I would say, would be stubborn in their view that it's freedom of movement or nothing. But based on what I see from the members of CARICOM, they are saying that they will continue to be full members, and they are not necessarily ready for this concept of freedom of movement. So we have to look at it not just from an ideological perspective or aspirational perspective, but a practical perspective. I'll just give you an example. Haiti has maybe between 10 and 15 million people. The government of the Virgin Islands has between 35 and 40,000 people. Do you believe that we should have unimpeded, uncontrolled migration of Haitian nationals into the, and Haiti is a full member of CARICOM, by the way, into the Virgin Islands, and we don't have any control over that? Is that something you think would be practical and in the best interest of the people of the Virgin Islands? And if you're saying to me, well, you know, we don't want you to participate in CARICOM because of that, or become a full member in the way that Bahamas is or Montserrat is, you know, well, of course, that would be for the decision of the heads of government.
Constitutional talks. Where are you with that? I think some time ago you made an announcement that you should have a team together. Obviously, this relates to the topic. You're going to put a team together to go to the UK for constitutional talks. I'm not sure if I'm wondering if you're going to the UK for constitutional talks without first meeting with the people, because they're going to send you out to represent them. Have you been meeting with the people before, or intend to do so before you go to the UK?
Well, in the House of Assembly, just yesterday, we would have completed the report. We had the House of Assembly produce a report on our negotiating position that we will adopt with the United Kingdom government. Since that document is completed, we are going to lay it on the table of the House of Assembly. I believe sometime next week it will be laid on the table. That document will become a public document. People of the Virgin Islands will have an opportunity to read it, peruse it, digest it. And the United Kingdom government as well will receive it as well. And then we'll be in a position to commence negotiations with the United Kingdom after that. And I'll be soon announcing the members of the negotiating team that will be commencing those negotiations. But I do think that we should provide an opportunity for interested persons, perhaps maybe through like a public eye or something like that, to ask any questions of myself or other members of the team on the negotiating position. I do think that that would be something that would be good to do for the people of the Virgin Islands.
Do you think you'll have a problem in choosing a team?
I don't think so.
Who is responsible for choosing the team to go to the UK?
Because we've been doing things in a transparent way, and we have been ensuring that our institutions are fully involved in the process, we have been taking such to the House of Assembly. So I plan to come to the House of Assembly with a resolution to ratify the team. But I'll make a decision in terms of who is on the team, and then I'll bring that to the House of Assembly for a resolution of the House.
The opposition has the opportunity to choose its own team, or you will be choosing. Obviously, the team, I believe, will include members of the opposition.
Yes.
The members of the, you will be choosing the opposition to member of the opposition to accompany you, or they will be responsible for choosing on that side?
All the members of the team I will nominate, and then it will go to the House of Assembly to be ratified.
I'm asking you, sir, as regards, I think the precedent is the opposition will choose its team. I am saying if you're going to move away from that precedent, sir, and make move a resolution in the House of Assembly to avoid that aspect where the opposition will be choosing its team.
I'll repeat myself. I am going to nominate every member of the team, and I'm going to bring it to the House of Assembly for ratification.
So the opposition has no role in this, in choosing the opposition, any member from that team to go with you? That's what you're saying?
The role of any member of the team will be to go to United Kingdom and to negotiate the document that we all agreed in the House.
One final question on that, sir.
All right, and members of the press, just to note, since Zan was the last person to ask questions, he's already asked some outline questions, so the next one will go right into any outline questions you have after that. Go right ahead. You're the last one, and then everybody else will join. Go ahead.
Premier. As regards the appointment of a CEO of the BVI HSA, Dr. June Samuel was recommended to fill that position by the BVI HSA. I think the BVI HSA submitted that recommendation for Dr. June Samuel in November 2023 for that position. She did not get an answer. 1 year passed, she did not get an answer. But they were told to re-advertise the position. Cabinet refused to take on, and she was not notified as to why she was not chosen. Why did Dr. June Samuel was not chosen by you and your cabinet to take up that position of CEO of the BVI Health Services Authority?
I think that's a question more appropriate for the Minister of Health, Honourable Vincent Wheatley.
But it came to cabinet, sir.
Cabinet doesn't play a role. Cabinet doesn't play a role in the selection of a CEO for the Health Services Authority. Based on the legislation, the board has to, the minister has to agree with whoever the board puts forward. So there has to be a good working relationship between the board and the minister to decide on someone who will lead the Health Services Authority.
So you're unaware what I'm talking about?
I'm sorry?
You're unaware because you're saying it's the minister. But the minister, so did the minister bring that situation about the appointment of Dr. June Samuel to cabinet?
We did have a paper in cabinet, but we have found that based on the legislation, it is not a matter for cabinet. It's a matter for the minister and the board. And let me just say this. I certainly appreciate the service that Dr. June Samuel has provided to the Health Services Authority. I think we all should express our appreciation. As it pertains to who leads moving forward, that is entirely a matter for the board and the minister to be able to determine as they go through whatever particular process that they go through.
But the board chose us, sir.
I said it's the board and the minister.
So you're blaming the minister?
No, it's not a blame. You know, it's not blame. It's just what the situation is. That's what the situation is. And
I have a question on that issue. If it was placed on you on cabinet, would you have appointed her?
I don't like to engage in hypotheticals.
You think she should be given the job?
I don't like to engage in hypotheticals. It's a matter for the minister, so I won't say anything that may contradict anything that the board and the minister may come up with. I give the board and the minister my full support in being able to come up with the right person to lead that institution. And I think we all have to work together to make sure that we have excellent health services in this territory.
Because it begs the question, Premier. There is Nadia Demi in the Immigration Department, acting plenty years. The lady at London House, London office, plenty years. And it gives the impression that one must ask the question, sir, as regards where your position is, where the cabinet position is, where your government position is, as regards placing women in high positions of authority.
Yeah.
And it also begs the questions of what you would have done in the situation with Jackie Vanterpool. Could it have been that you, because of these stages, you're only following the crowd now, but if you were placed in that position with Jackie Vanterpool, you would have done the same thing what the governor is now doing. It's possible. Is that so?
I think you're having a lot of fun, Zan. I think you're having a lot of fun during this press conference. that one is very interesting. That one is very interesting. First,
it's possible.
Yeah, that's journalism. That's your unique style of journalism. But let me just say this. First of all salute, the very strong leaders that we have who are women in our government, from the level of cabinet, from the level of the House of Assembly, to our senior administrators, our permanent secretaries. We have quite a number of women. I think that's something that we can be proud of in the Virgin Islands. Women who have stepped up and led with integrity, led with distinction. And we also celebrate them, especially as we are acknowledging International Women's Day. I want to salute some of those persons that you mentioned. I want to salute Jackie Vanterpool, who did an excellent job in leading the Royal Virgin Islands Police Force while she was acting. And I believe that she would have done an excellent job if she was confirmed in the post. But of course, that decision is not mine. As it pertains to Nadia Damin Hodge, also a young, up-and-coming star in the public service. Let me say that. And I believe that we are going through a process right now. And at the end of the process, she may indeed be confirmed as the Chief Immigration Officer. And she would have my full support in that. You also mentioned Tracy Bradshaw. Tracy Bradshaw as well is also going through a process. Because, of course, traditionally we've had public servants who've gone on secondments to the United Kingdom. How those secondments work is generally they are time-bound, and when those secondments are finished, you return. A number of those secondments have been extended. But of course, I know that the individual you mentioned has been in contact with the Human Resources Department, and they've basically outlined the situation in very clear terms, and certainly moving forward, we have decisions that we can make. But those decisions will be informed by an external affairs policy that we're presently putting together. So when that external affairs policy is completed, we will make decisions as it pertains to the situation in London. But let me say that Tracy Bradshaw has served with distinction. She has served with distinction, and we all owe her, a great deal of commendation for representing the interests of the Virgin Islands in the United Kingdom. And I'm fully committed to working with Tracy Bradshaw moving forward, and I value the service that she has provided.
Thank you very much, Kareem. One, you, nice statement about women. Statement, stepping up to the plate. But it's so unfortunate, so when some persons make statements, they are overruled. I'm referring to the Junior Minister for Culture and Tourism. The Junior Minister went in a meeting some time ago and said that the parade will be changed. The decision has been taken, and I called for, and they actually asked for the blessings. It wasn't discussed before. Seems like it wasn't discussed with, I believe, with the makers of the parade. You should be discussing it first with the makers of the parade first before a decision is taken. But it seems as though that didn't happen. Anyhow, she made the decision, saying that it will change to Saturday. You came back after basically and in the media term, threw her under the bus and said that what she said was wrong. That it was just...
You saying that I said what she said was
wrong?
No,
you didn't say that. Obviously, you changed it. You said it was not a decision, it's a proposal. So what she said was wrong. You said it's a proposal, it wasn't final. So you're saying that what she said was wrong, that it was a decision taken. So you said it's just a proposal, right? So, but the decision, what I have a problem with, sir, the decision was made by caucus.
I'm sorry?
Decision wasn't made by, you wasn't part of that decision?
I'm not going to discuss what happens in caucus, but
you were part of that decision. When
were you in caucus?
I have friends in
you
caucus.
Have friends in caucus?
Yeah. The decision, but
all right.
Okay, sir. But finally,
sources deep inside caucus.
So, it could be you.
All right, buddy.
You're my friend. It could be you, sir.
All right.
But what I'm wondering, sir, another decision that was taken by the junior minister is that, and it has some concerns with the Miss BVI pageant, where it's likely that if you're attending that, you may be under shed in some mud, shelter in the rain, if it comes, because you'll have to go under a shed, under a tent to visit that. Persons have been saying it's wrong. Does that decision change, or it still remains that, because you throw one out the bus already, you throw away one, so I'm wondering if that decision stands where that is concerned.
Well, first of all, let me say...
Thank you very much.
Yeah, thank you, Brother Zan. First of all, let me say, as it pertains to Honourable Lusard Smith, she has my full support. Let me say to you that I don't remember somebody being in that position, maybe with the exception of Eileen Parsons, who has that background in culture and tourism. I think she follows in Eileen Parsons' footsteps in that. I worked in the culture department many years, administered the festival and fairs for many years, and also worked at the tourist board. She has my greatest respect and my greatest support, and I believe she's doing an excellent job, and that she should continue to lead that area well into the future. That is my view. As it pertains to the festival and fairs belongs to all of us. It's our emancipation to celebrate, and I think it's always important that we give persons an opportunity to express themselves and what they want. Honourable Lusard Smith, I believe, is making commendable efforts to solve challenges that we've had over many years. One challenge that everybody acknowledges, but seemingly nobody wants to do anything about, is the fact that the same persons who participate in the Rise and Shine Tramp on Monday are the same persons who go to the parade. And the parade religiously starts late as a result of that. You have persons who travel from Virgin Gorda, persons who travel from St. Thomas and other places. And sometimes they even have to leave the parade before it even starts. So Honourable Lusard Smith is trying to solve a problem. And some persons want to persecute her for that. Well, I commend her for seeking to solve a problem. And persons have said over many, many, many years that the two should not be on the same day. So why a person seeking to persecute Honourable Lusard Smith if we all agree that both things should not be on the same day? Okay, so as it pertains to history, Honourable Lusard Smith taught me this, which I'm grateful for. The Rise and Shine Tramp has symbolic meaning on August Monday, because when the enslaved persons here discovered that they were free, they went dancing in the streets. They were dancing in the streets in celebration that they were free. And that's the reason why we are seeking to maintain the Rise and Shine tramp on a Monday. And we have been putting forward proposals, ideas of where that parade can go. My encouragement to Honourable Lusard Smith was to do a survey, which she accepted. And the committee has accepted, and Honourable Lusard Smith is here, and she can certainly speak for herself because she has been engaged with the committee, the Festival and Fairs Committee. And I believe that we should be open-minded to consider how the celebration can work in a way that we solve some of those challenges that we have. But it's not something that should cause rancor. It's not something that should cause division. It is an effort to improve our celebrations and to bring it to the world-class level that we all desire. So let's have a dialogue, let's have a discussion, and let's also be open-minded to change. You know, sometimes we have lots of complaints about things, but somehow or the other we don't want to change any of them. You know, so I think we need to be open to change. I'll just give you an example. Virgin Gorda Easter Festival, which is coming up. You know, some person started complaining about the location changing from where it was to the Yacht Harbor location. And it went to the Yacht Harbor location, and everybody's happy and pleased with it. You know, sometimes we have to be willing to engage in change, and obviously you have a government here who's not afraid of change, not afraid to try new things, and so that could rock the boat a little bit sometimes. But sometimes when you make the change, not all the time, sometimes when you make the change, persons would say it's a change for the better. So let's be open-minded about some of the changes which are being proposed. And if we try it and it doesn't work out, we change it back. Yeah?
Would you allow the Beacon, do you want to repeat your question? Beacon. Yeah. Go right ahead, please. Yeah. So we're now taking the outlying questions, so we'll go with Beacon. You have one to vote, Jacka? Wonderful.
Mr. Premier, as I was saying earlier, it's now coming up to a year in April since the liquidation, the beginning of the proceedings for liquidation of the Bank of Asia. $5 million of public money, taxpayers' money, was deposited into that bank in the months previous to that, when it was obvious that it was going to be liquidated. Do you know who authorized that deposit of public money?
That information is contained in the internal audit report. I'm being informed now, Financial Secretary can correct me if I'm wrong, that internal audit report was completed. Was it completed or is it not completed? It was completed. So I'm going to consider that particular report. Let me consider what that report states, and then perhaps maybe at the next press conference I can speak to that.
But you know who authorized the deposit of $5 million of public money?
I would prefer just to refer to the report.
So you know who did it?
It's in the report.
So why can't you say who it was?
I have to consider the content of the report and then I'll share it.
Was it you as Finance Minister?
No, it wasn't me as Finance Minister, but I would just ask, I would just respectfully ask that you allow me to report on the contents of the report at the next press conference.
The 20 million overspend on public service wages, did that go through the Governor's office? Was the discrepancy there through the Governor and the Deputy Governor's offices?
I believe that report was completed and laid on the table of the House. So that's a public document.
But do you think that the problem lied with the Governor's office?
No, I think what you should do is look at the report, and then you can write a story based on the facts in the report.
Well, you're not giving any facts.
Yeah, because the report is there, so you can't have a dog and back too, So we do the report. We should just refer to the report.
Okay, finally, the BVI has become a centre of global curiosity over Lord Mandelson and whether he was going to abscond here from Scotland Yard or not. And Sir Lindsay Hoyle, the Speaker of the House of Commons, tipped off the Metropolitan Police because he heard when on his visit here that, like last week, 2 weeks ago, that Lord Mandelson was going to travel here. Do you know who told Sir Lindsay Hoyle that allegation?
I don't have any comment on that.
What does that mean?
It seems quite clear. It's English.
Was it you?
Was
it the governor?
I don't have a comment on that.
Was it the governor?
I don't have a comment.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
Keegan. Just for clarity and for the territory's name, you cannot abscond Scotland Yard in the Virgin Islands. We are an overseas territory, and you would know that their reach also comes into the territory. So there's no absconding in our territory for any of those reasons. Jacka Wooding. Donovan. I love that part as well, very much so.
All right. I just wanted to first make a comment. When it comes to free movement, I think it's very important that we speak about the different tiers, etc. So I think that's probably where some people may have misunderstood some of your comments. Okay. So I just wanted to put out some encouragement to your team to maybe put out a statement for the press, etc., to fully detail the government of the Virgin Islands' position, because it seems like the focus is more so on permanent migration into the territory versus leisure travel, visa setups, whatever the situation is. That leads me into my first question. The UK and the US would have recently added and adjusted visa requirements for a number of OECS countries, including Dominica, Antigua, and most recently this week, St. Lucia, with the UK citing concerns on the sale of passports by that country. Is the territory monitoring these situations, and are there any concerns in the BVI surrounding CIP by regional partners?
Yes, as a member of OECS and CARICOM, we are, of course, privy to those discussions that take place as it pertains to the citizenship by investment programs. From our standpoint, we see that the OECS member countries are making, in my view, commendable efforts to ensure that they have regimes in place which are fit for purpose. I know that they've been engaged with various bodies, various governments around the world, and they continue to walk through those issues. So, it's not necessarily for me to get involved in, their bilateral discussions with any country, but certainly I'm aware of the tremendous effort that is being put into ensuring that those regimes are fit for purpose, and I know that there's tremendous efforts going in engaging with various countries around the world on those, and I believe those countries will continue to walk through those issues. Of course, the Virgin Islands itself, we can't issue citizenship. That's something for the United Kingdom government to do. In the past, we've considered residence by investment programs. Residence investment programs exist in places like Cayman Islands and other places. It's something that we continue to discuss, residence by investment. The UK themselves have those type of programs in place. Many countries have those programs in place in terms of encouraging investment and providing either residence or citizenship benefits for persons who contribute at a certain level. So it doesn't seem to be anything strange in the world itself. But those things, have to be carefully considered for their implications, including security implications.
During deliberations of the Standing Finance Committee, the Civil Registry and Passport Office reported a 13.72% decrease in revenue collection and attributed this decrease to the removal of visa requirements for Guyanese nationals coming to the territory. Are there any plans to recover that lost revenue?
Well, we always want to recover lost revenue and increase revenue, but I don't want to see a visa regime as a money-making regime. I mean, I don't want to break any news here, but I have spoken to my Ministry of Financial Services in particular, which is responsible for labor and immigration, to consider some changes to the visa regime, which we will be moving forward with. For instance, persons have to get an entry permit and a work permit and a visa. I believe that that is completely unnecessary, and it results in duplication of several of the same processes, because all three of those things are supposed to be intended to accomplish the same purpose. So it would be my goal in the very short and near future to, as opposed to having entry permit, work permit, visa, just have one permit that would regulate persons from other countries working in the BVI. And I believe that will go a long way. And of course, you know, as opposed to going to 3 different departments for 3 different permits, you have one, which is less headache for the members of the workforce and the businesses. And of course, we can always consider having one price instead of 3 different prices, and try to see if also, you know, we can recover some money there in terms of the one price for that one particular service.
Similarly, the Customs Department expressed concerns with losses in revenue due to concessions on items related to renewable energy, with an estimated loss of 3 to 4 million for a 5-year period. Is there a plan to recover this revenue, or is this considered to be worth it for the benefits of renewable energy?
Yeah, I would say it's worth it and will eventually save us money from having to ship all of the money that we have abroad, overseas, you know, to these oil-producing countries. And let me just say as well that the solar energy, it provides energy resilience, energy diversity, and what the hope is that the disposable income from not paying that money to electricity corporation can be used to be spent in the economy. So more disposable income in the pockets of the people of the Virgin Islands is a good thing for the economy, and we'll recoup it some other way.
All right, Guava Berry, I have a few questions, but I'm just going to try to ask just a couple. I can see you're tired, and I think we're tired too.
12 minutes. Go ahead.
A couple of them I'm just going to put on record because I know you're going to have to go find the information.
Sure,
but I just want to ask.
I appreciate that.
Let me start with, when you say everybody in terms of changes to the festival parade, do you have some statistics to support that position?
When you say everybody, what you mean?
You said everybody wants the change.
No, I was just speaking really broadly and generally, that persons recognize challenges or problems, but when persons propose solutions, you know, it's like nobody wants to do anything about these things that we complain about year after year after year.
Okay,
That's what I mean. But I did encourage the junior minister to do a survey on the parade point, and I believe that they will be putting out a survey soon.
Okay, so this one is for the record, and if you get the information for us, you can send it to me, or you can just bring it next time, hopefully.
Right, Carrie will make
so, so you're the Minister for Banks, and there is information floating around that the National Bank is struggling, in particular due to outstanding debt. All right. Some of this debt is, a large amount of this debt is contributed apparently to the question I'm going to ask you. How many present and past members of the House of Assembly hold large loans or mortgages with the National Bank of the Virgin Islands? How many are paid off? How many are in good standing? And how many are not in good standing?
Okay, let me just say in terms of that type of information, I'm not sure if I'm allowed to be able to share that type of information with the public.
Just for the record, I'm not asking for names, just the data.
I'm not sure if I'm in a position to share any of that type of information, but I'm going to consult with my lawyers first.
You do that.
Before I agree to provide that information. Okay. I don't want to make any comment on the National Bank situation at this particular time, except to say, of course, the Financial Secretary, his team, myself, we've been engaged with the National Bank of the Virgin Islands, and we've been having internal conversations. Yeah,
it remains
at the appropriate time. We'll give more information.
Okay, I'm just interested in that. Well, I'm gonna say like you, quite a few people are interested in that information. So
okay.
I don't know if the bank can still be considered a government bank. I'm not sure.
It is a government bank,
right?
Yes.
So which means it's the people's business.
Well,
because in the event, if anything, the people's money will bail out the bank, right?
Well, as I said, I'm going to continue having discussions with the Financial Secretary.
Okay.
And then we'll provide more information as necessary.
All right. I want to skim through fast because I don't want to ask you everything. How much is your chief of staff paid? And is it a contractual position? Was it advertised? And have you settled on a salary for the climate change envoy?
Let me say, as it pertains to, advertising, what persons make, I'm not really in the business of doing that. I have to consult the policy. We did pass a policy, and the policy may speak about something to do with that. I have to review the policy in terms of how we, how we deal with, informing the public about such matters. Let me consult the policy and what it says about advertising, salaries, and whatnot. But persons are so interested in the other people's salaries. I find it interesting. But it is a contractual appointment. Presently, he's appointed as a special advisor. That comes, I believe that might have been published, the salaries that special advisors get. But let me just double check and make sure. But he is going to be transitioning from being a special advisor, which the Premier was allowed 3 previously, to my chief of staff. And that's also, I believe, might be in a policy which was approved by Cabinet and I believe made public.
Premier, I'm a little confused because I believe that government's business is the people's business. Is that correct? I don't think that has changed. And government spending, what it's spent on is laid out. So I'm not sure what you mean when you say people's salary.
Well, for instance, any public officer, right? You have their information at Human Resources. If I'm privy to information from someone's Human Resources, am I at liberty to share it with the world?
But it's all public knowledge.
Yeah, but I have a little more nuanced position than that.
Have you changed that in legislation?
Persons do have constitutional rights to a certain level of privacy, and I don't think, even if public money pays for it, that I'm at liberty to give the details of what public money pays for. Let's say, for instance, if I provide a grant to somebody for surgery that they're doing or a medical procedure, because it's public money, should I go and broadcast that across the world? So, but anyway, the policy, I think, might stipulate even where that information is shared and how it's shared. So let me just remind myself of what the policy says, and then, we'll abide by whatever the policy says.
No problem. Does Julian Willock have a contract with your office?
Not as yet, but we're working on it.
Okay.
He's gonna be a special advisor for me.
Okay, but your government is going out, so what's the urgency in adding more people? But that's a side question. You don't have to answer that.
You don't think
Let's
we
not,
should hire anybody else in the next year?
not
the
special
the public.
advice, or at least what is he going to tell you between now and December?
So we can
But
hire
that's
people in the public service, but not special
For permanent
advisors?
jobs, I would say, but to advise the premier as we head out.
Should we have
of
any
an administration.
consultancies or anything which are not permanent?
If it's necessary, I don't see you need any more advisors. But that's just me. Let's not fuss about that.
I wouldn't do it if it wasn't necessary.
Interesting. I'm going to go fast now. Your trip to New York City to model, was that at your expense or the government?
That was the government's expense. I did that as Minister of Culture, and I did that to support our designers and models who went to New York. I did that to support them.
How did you going and modeling support that?
Well,
like from
I didn't go
the
up there
premier's
to
office?
I didn't go there to model, you know. I went there to support them. They asked me to model while I was there.
Okay.
Did you enjoy that, by the way?
Absolutely not.
Okay, good.
I'm kind of frugal when it comes to the government's money right now. But anyway, that's you guys' decisions to make.
Yeah.
Decision to make on how you decide to spend that. We just get to ask the questions.
Sure.
Why did the NSC support the governor with his recommendation for an additional 3 months for Richard Olga? Did I say that right? Knowing that the POC has made recommendations for a new commissioner? And why is your government silent on the recommendation that the POSC made with regards to the commissioner police process?
The NSC did not approve 3 months for Richard Olga. That's not the case.
Can I just say that the governor had a press conference? We were there and he said that you guys were on board with him. I mean, that's on record.
No, we didn't approve 3 additional months for Richard Olga.
Okay, so he just told you guys then?
Yeah, that's not the case. And I can't say that we've been silent about the situation with Jackie Vanterpool.
Okay.
You know, we have not. We have been vocal about how we think about that, our views on that. You know, I made it very clear I thought Jackie should have gotten the job.
Okay. I don't know, there was a cartoon with the governor this week. Don't know if it's making sense, maybe it is. I'm gonna ask you like 3 quick questions and then I'm gonna leave the rest and hopefully we have another press conference next week. Will there be an investigation into the Bates Hill leases that have been placed on Anegada's land register and transferred to other owners and to freehold? You were informed of, as early about 2 years ago, of this reality. Why hasn't it been made public?
I'm not recalling the issue. I probably need to consult with the Minister of Lands on that. I'm not familiar with the issue right now.
Okay. Premier, are you withholding information from the internal audit in relation to the Bank of Asia matter? I think you said more than 6 to 7 months ago that the report was completed and the information will be forthcoming.
6 to 7 months ago, I don't think that's the case.
Well, December you said it was finished. The press conference before that you said it was finished. And today you're saying it's finished and coming. So it's about 6 months. The year is going fast. We're in the 3rd month of the year already.
Okay.
So is it that you have the report and you don't want to reveal what's in the report?
No, that's not the case at all.
Okay.
Actually, let me go back and check what you stated in terms of when it was finished.
Mm-hmm.
I'll go back and check that.
Okay.
But as I promised this time, of course, next press conference, we'll say something about that report. I'm not withholding anything.
Can we get the information within the next week? Because the report has been finished for about 6 months now, and it's been on your desk.
It hasn't been finished for 6 months. You know, the financial secretary is there, so he's telling me that's not the case.
Right, so we're making a note of your request.
But let me talk through with the financial secretary, because I don't want to promise anything that's not in alignment with the legislated process.
Right, right, Wafaberry, next question.
Okay, yeah, I'm finishing on this one. Is there likely to be an election this year?
In 2026?
Mm-hmm.
My intent is to complete whatever it is I said I would complete to the people of the Virgin Islands. That's my intent.
Can you tell us what two of those things are?
I'm sorry?
Can you tell us what two of those things are
Two
that
of
you
those
intend
things
to
are?
complete? Because we're not sure. When you say complete,
You're not sure? I mean, you have to look
the
at
airport,
the
prospect.
you have to look at a manifesto. You have to look at a manifesto. When we look at the manifesto, that's what I said I would do, and my intent is to finish as many of those items as possible.
Can you give us two of those major things
I think
that you're referring to?
Just look at the manifesto.
Come on, Premier, they need to pop off the top of your head. They're your things.
You want to know
prospects, the airport.
You want to know what things that we're going to do before we call the election?
Just two.
No.
Because you said you're going to spend every cent of the 100 million, so just two. Just two.
That's my intent as
Yeah,
well.
just two. You have two on the top of your head?
I'll leave that for right now.
No,
There'll
that'll
be time enough to speak about, all of the election rhetoric.
All right,
I know people getting excited. We're getting close to that time.
Vino's approaching the microphone.
I know.
JTV, do you have anything else there? Good. So Vino will take the last question and the Premier will exit. We have some other obligations this afternoon. Go right ahead, Vino.
Honourable Premier, can we still look forward to the Ordering Council being removed this month?
Yes, I actually think it's going to be removed. It's like a week from today. Is it a week from today? Yeah, I believe it's a week, somewhere around there.
You had stated in December that the Minister for Overseas Territories was open to the VI relaxing the borrowing ratio. Can you give us an update?
Yeah, they did give us permission to relax the ratio. Financial Secretary, I can't remember how many years. It might have been 2020. Was it 2028 or somewhere around there? Until 2028, a ratio of 20, a liquidity ratio of 20 as opposed to 25.
Finally, Benjamin Judah, a former special advisor to the British Foreign Secretary, recently acknowledged that the OTs do not receive money for their national budgets
That's
from
true.
the UK, but alleged that in some ways they have become quite corrupt. And he singled out the Virgin Islands. I am not sure you're aware of that, but how do you respond to that?
Yeah, I think Ben Judah is quite out of place in calling the Virgin Islands corrupt. You know, I've lived there all my life. I'm familiar with the people. You know, it's a proud people that we have here, hard-working people of integrity. And I could point you to a lot more acts of corruption in the United Kingdom. And I would challenge them to bring to my attention even one person who's been convicted in the Virgin Islands of corruption. And as I said before, you know, we had some administrative challenges that needed to be improved in our governance structure. But I definitely reject this concept that the Virgin Islands is a corrupt place. He needs to travel to the Virgin Islands and do some investigations, and he will find that what he mentioned is utter nonsense.
Finally, Judah also suggested that incorporating OTs boldly and proudly into the UK would be the best outcome for the OTs. They would have their own Secretary of State in Cabinet. Do you agree or see this as an option for the territory?
I found it quite offensive that he was actually moving forward with a proposal for what he believes is best for the OTs. It's the people of the Virgin Islands that have to determine what is best for them, not some special advisor in the United Kingdom government. It is the people of the Virgin Islands and the people of the Virgin Islands alone that will determine their future. Persons know my view and what I favor. You know, I favor us becoming a sovereign nation and engaging in relationships with our partners whether that's through a free association or any other type of multilateral engagement with those who share our interests. That's my view, and I will defend that view. But it's ultimately the people of the Virgin Islands who will have to determine their future.
Thank you.
Thank you.
All right, thank you very much. Thank you so much for your time.
Thank you.
You've been very gracious.
All right, thank you. Okay. Thank you, everybody.
Appreciate it so much. I don't want to say he's been gracious because he's been dutiful in the time that he's spent here, but we've been together for 2 hours. Members of the press, we really thank you for you guys all being here with us. You can't understand how much it means to us that all of you guys show up here today. We've worked hard on our discussions, our timeliness as well, so we appreciate you guys all being here. Members of the press and government officials and all those who joined us, thank you for your time and for your attention. Members of the press, you will also notice around the room that we have government officials here. They're not just here to fill the room, they're here to give the technical answers that you need. So if you have any follow-up, you can also ask some of the government officials and they can help you as they can. We want to thank the Junior Minister, Hodge Smith, Honourable Dr. Carl Doss for being here, FS Financial Secretary Fret, the Deputy Financial Secretary Vanterpool, Permanent Secretary Stout Igwe, Deputy Secretary Brathwaite, Assistant Secretary Flax, the Head of VISMA, Mr. Samuel, and Assistant Secretary Foy for your presence here today as well. We celebrate with the Ministry of Education, Youth Affairs and Sports as it is Education Month. Today, I believe, is ESHS Sports Day, Day 2. And we want to wish all the houses the best of luck, but may God especially bless those golden House 4 Tigers. Just want to plug that right there, House 4. On Monday, we will meet at Capoons Bay Cemetery at 9 a.m. for the 31st National Wreath-laying Ceremony for H. Laverty Stout. The theme this year is Legacy in Motion, the Generation Yet Unborn. And so the entire program will be performed by young people. Little Briley Jones will sing the national anthem and territorial song. Shekinah House of Prayer, the speech choir, will give a powerful rendition of a speech. We will also see the entire ESHS concert band perform there, and the Boys and Girls Brigade of the Methodist Church will perform the wreath-laying ceremony. We hope that you can join us at 9 a.m. We ask you to enjoy your weekend, and all those who are attending various events, whether you're wearing pink or sailing to Sandbox, please be careful this weekend. On behalf of the government of the Virgin Islands, I am Kareem Nelson Hull, Chief Protocol Officer. Do have a wonderful day.